I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're celebrating the magic of childhood with a timeless story told in rhyme. The name of the book, Benjamin Symington Theodore Bear. It's written by a terrific author. Her name is Andrea O'Connor, and she takes us on a whimsical journey through imaginary lands, fierce dragon battles, and heartwarming moments of friendship. If your child loves classics like Winnie the Pooh and Corduroy, this beautifully illustrated storybook is destined to become a favorite. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put her in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing book. The links are below this interview. And be sure to download the Spotlight Network TV app streaming on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Apple TV. Andrea, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you for having me.
I love the character of Benjamin Symington Theodore Bear, in part because his name is fun to say, which I think must really appeal to children as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's like a little tongue twister. She sells seashells by the seashore. Love it. How did you come up with the idea for Benjamin?
I was going to a writing course for writing for children, and our first assignment was to write something for children.
Mhm.
For all of my writing, it just comes to me.
Mhm.
And so the name came to me first, and then I took him on a journey.
Wonderful, wonderful. Tell us a little bit about his journey so the folks at home know what to expect when they purchase your book.
Um, a child takes his bear and actually relates to it as an imaginary friend.
Mhm.
And so he just kind of directs the action, and they have a day of play,
Mhm.
um, from breakfast and down to going to bed. We follow the two of them on their day together.
Mhm.
Um, I love watching children play,
Yeah.
and I watch seeing their imaginations bloom. And this book kind of reflects that magic.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And children must be enthralled by it because they can kind of picture themselves going on the same kind of adventure and perhaps one day witnessing the wonderful things that Benjamin Symington Theodore Bear witnesses as well. And I think that's great. Have you had the opportunity to read it to any children?
Not yet. I'm going to be
Okay.
reading at our library
I
at
think that'd be
story
fun.
time.
Yeah, that'd be great just to get their feedback. I think you should volunteer to do it at some of the local elementary schools as well, because I think it'd be great to get the feedback from kids and watch their faces light up and maybe even have them figure out where the story is going to go next. And I think that could be some great inspiration and some wonderful feedback. Benjamin Symington Theodore Bear sounds like such a classic name, like it's been out there always, but it's new. How did you come up with the name itself?
It just came to me. I called all of these little thoughts gifts because they're sort of given to me, and I do with them what I feel is best.
Yeah.
In fact, I've always wanted to insert an E in his name because I label my manuscripts by the letters of the title, and I
Uh-huh.
wanted it to be Best Bear.
So you wanted him to be Benjamin Symington E. Bear? Yeah. Okay, that'd be
Yes.
cool. That makes it quite unique as well. I think it's unique enough. I don't think he needed the E. So I think you're in good shape. Writing the story in rhyme is both delightful for children, but also a challenge. What was that like?
Actually, I've written poetry in the past, especially when I was young. Um, and again, it just kind of flowed and came to me. As I also am visual, so I was kind of watching this happen and then writing about it.
Speaking visually, have you envisioned this as an animated series or something like that, or a film?
That would be lovely. That would be
Yeah,
lovely.
that'd be
I never met with the artist, but I did give her feedback, and she captured exactly what I would have drawn myself if I could draw.
wonderful. So you guys collaborated like online or something. You gave
Yes,
her instructions as to what you wanted to convey, And then she gave you back pictures as proposals, and you're like, yeah, I like that one, I like that one, and so forth. Well, they really worked, and that's the wonder of the internet is that you can work with somebody in any part of the globe. Do you know where the illustrator was from?
Someplace in Connecticut, but I'm not sure
Okay.
where.
Well, not too exotic, not too far off place, but that's amazing because you can be, I've worked with people from Ireland and India and all over the world now because of the internet, and that's great. It's great to take the best from all over the world, which is wonderful as well. What's the ideal age group for this book, would you say?
I would say mostly preschoolers. They're
Hmm.
the ones most likely to be playful. My brother's great-granddaughter loved the story and insisted on having a bubble bath and a bite of a slice of apple based on some of the things that were happening in the book.
Well, that's great. Well, they sound like it's a terrific way to spend the day. Some apple and some bubble baths. Sign me up. Yeah, without a doubt. Sounds great. Did your own childhood experiences influence the writing of this book at all?
I don't really think so, but it's hard to remember.
Yeah.
I know I played a lot.
Hmm.
Um, I know I have bears in my life,
Yeah.
many, many bears in my life. Um, I was an adventurous child,
Yeah.
and Benjamin is an adventurous bear.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then also we have the backdrop of the children's literature that was popular at the time that no doubt influences us. Curious George was a big one when I was
That was
growing
a big
up.
one for me.
Yeah, The Man in the
I
Yellow Hat,
loved Curious George.
Yeah,
And I've always enjoyed children's literature, and I collect it now. My favorites from my childhood, I collect.
wonderful,
Um,
wonderful. My dad, who was a much older dad, um, talked about a series called Sunny Boy, which
mm,
was about like a little boy who did everything right. It was Sunny. And I found one of his books that dated back to like 1930 or something like that. And it was wonderful. And that's one of the collections I have of children's literature as well. Some of the children's literature is terrific and it's entertaining to adults as well. And I think that's what's great about your book. I think parents will really enjoy reading it to their children because it's not a silly story. It's a fun, imaginative story. I imagine that's one of your goals. You wanted it to appeal to parents as well.
yes, because a child can demand a book, and if the parent is tired of it, they're
Yeah,
they're not going to read it and not read it with enthusiasm.
exactly.
Um, I also thought this might be a good end of the day, going to bed story,
Yeah.
because it flows from being very active to moving to bed.
Yeah, exactly. And children like to have the same thing read to them over and over and over again. So if you pick out a book for your kid, it better be a book that you like too, because you're going to be reading it a lot if they happen to get locked onto that book, which I think people and children will get locked onto your book as well. I think that's terrific. Is there a message for children in this book or for parents to talk about with their kids?
I think it's to be to explore the world and to be
Yeah,
playful and to love others,
yeah.
because the child and the bear have a beautiful relationship as they go through their day.
Well, that's great. That is great. It doesn't seem to me as I go around my world today, wherever I'm traveling or whatever neighborhood I'm in, that children play anymore. I mean, I used to get out in the morning and say, okay, bye, mom, I'm going out. And I'd be out all day until the street lights came on. And I was exploring on my bike in different neighborhoods and meeting different friends and going into the woods and playing soldier and mud pies and whatever it was, meeting, neighborhood kids to play. And our parents didn't worry about us. I don't really think the world is that much more dangerous today. I think it's just a perception. Why do you think kids don't play anymore? Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do play. Maybe they just play with these. That's the problem, right?
They do play with those. I've
Yeah.
been on the road a lot, visiting family, and you do notice the ubiquitous iPad and phone,
Yeah.
um, and children just poking around. But I've watched children at play,
Yeah.
here in Sherman, at the playgrounds,
Yeah.
um, and it's just such a a lovely, heartwarming experience
Yeah.
to see a child using their imagination to create a world.
Exactly. But I do think I've seen it at the playgrounds too, but I think play is more defined today that you go with your mother to the playground or you go to a play group, you go to whatever activity. But for you and me, when we went out and played, we just went out and played. We had a jump rope or skates or caps or whatever it was. And we just played. Our parents weren't supervising at all. You maybe,
Exactly.
yeah,
Too much is structured for children,
yeah.
and they aren't really encouraged to use their imagination to create worlds.
Yeah, exactly. Because you do need to get out of the way and let your child be his or her own person, no doubt. And I think this helicopter parenting keeps your kid from getting its knees scraped, but maybe some of the best memories in life are the little scars you have on your knees and elbows and around your eyes from falling and breaking things when you were a kid, no doubt. Tell me a little bit about your writing career.
I've always written, even as a child, I wrote a lot. I just enjoy it, and it gives me joy. Um, the first published book I had was actually writing for nursing publications.
Mhm.
I was working as a nurse editor with one of the largest publishers of nursing literature.
Mhm.
And so I was exposed to many of them on many manuscripts. And I felt that people needed some guidance in that area. Um, Most everybody I knew as I was teaching wanted to write for nurses.
Mhm.
And most of them had wonderful ideas. They just didn't know how to do it.
Mhm.
And that little book was very, very popular in the nursing community. It won an award. And I was pleased with it.
Yeah.
And it was one of the things that made me feel it was possible to continue my writing career.
Mhm.
It sort of was affirmation of what I was doing.
Wonderful, wonderful. Was your profession nursing?
Yes, I was a nurse.
Okay, how long did you do that?
Um, Golly, on and off many years, because
Yeah.
after my bedside nursing, I went into education
Hmm.
and ended my career as the director of a nursing program here in Connecticut.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, that's great work, noble work, no doubt, and important work, no doubt. Tell us about a Gabby Quinn or a Gaby Quinn mystery. It's a three-part series. Tell us about that.
Um, I later in life, after I left my nursing position, went to law school,
Mhm.
and I was serving our local community as a lawyer, mostly with estate planning and probate proceedings. Um, and I had some interesting cases.
Yeah.
And I always thought it would be interesting to write a story about my cases.
Hmm.
So Gabby is kind of map pattern after me, and the storylines are all based on a case that I've had here. Um, and I've enjoyed that work.
Yeah. So give us a little bit of an overview of the series. What type of cases does Gabby Quinn get involved with? And is it murder? Is it homicide? Is it, domestic violence? I mean, lawyers can cover all kinds of things.
Most of the stories are based on murder, um, and she has encountered the clients in estate planning primarily.
Mm.
And we see through the series the same characters coming through. So you can follow them as well as Gabby on her career and her love interest.
Yeah, well, that sounds wonderful. And when it comes to estates, often there's lots of reasons to suspect murder. Because I don't think there's a more vicious group of people than people who are fighting over somebody's
Money.
estate, right?
Yeah,
That's
though
can
I've
be,
found in my career it isn't always the money, it's the stuff.
yeah.
Fight over pictures and furniture and cherished items.
I would think divorce lawyer number one, as far as stress goes, with acrimony. Number two would probably have to be probate, right?
Probate's difficult. It's
Yeah.
it's a process. It's online now in Connecticut and a lot of other states.
Yeah,
So that's not as difficult. But
right.
explaining to the client, what we need, the information that we need,
Yeah,
and it's onerous for them, because it's usually a family member who's trying to work with the estate of a loved one.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Talk to us a little bit about, so you've got the Gabby Quinn mystery, that's a three-book series. You've got Benjamin Symington Theodore Bear. Any other books you've written?
I've written some that are still languishing as manuscripts. I was writing a series of stories um, from the past. They're more archaeological. I have an interest in um, Southwest culture,
Mhm.
the Native American culture there. So there, a lot of it is drawn from that kind of thinking and
Mhm.
belief systems. Um, it's I've talked to my editor about it and let her read the stories. And I felt that they were children's books, but
Mhm.
the language needs to be brought down and the length of them needs to be brought down. But I was very happy with the series. Uh,
Great. Wonderful. Now, are you working on anything new?
yes, I'm working on the next book in the Gabby Quinn series.
Okay, and what will that focus on?
That will be a um, a murder suicide.
Hmm. Okay, well, that sounds interesting. Unfortunately, we hear too many of those nowadays, that's for sure. What age did you go to law school? It intrigues me that you left nursing to go to law and switch careers.
Part of it was I was getting bored with what I was doing.
Hmm.
I just couldn't get new stuff going, and I'm always kind of learning, and so I wasn't learning anything.
Hmm.
Um, and one of the things I did to try to um, juice up my career was to write a book. I've have a couple of books out on education and nursing. Um, but the other thing that was intriguing me in my practice, both as a person in the community and as a nurse, was the intersect of medical ethics and the law,
Hmm.
um, which I found out by going to law school. There isn't any. um, s- but it was a wonderful experience. I really enjoyed my legal education. It was
Wonderful.
a good experience. It kind of filled in some of the gaps that I had in my long career or education in nursing. Um, I've had 13 years of higher education.
Well,
So
that's great. That's great. You enjoy it, and that's what matters. Were you in your 40s, your 50s?
I
What age
graduated in my
in
50s.
your 50s? Okay, wonderful. What was it like sitting for the bar?
You get cramps because you have to write everything longhand. And I
Yeah.
was sitting for the Connecticut bar as well as the New York bar.
Wow.
And everything was on the same day. It's stressful, but I got past it.
For both Connecticut and New York.
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, that's quite an accomplishment, no doubt. And so primarily it was estate planning and wills that you worked in?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And you chose that arena. Why?
Pardon?
Why did you choose that focus?
I had worked for our local probate judge
Hmm.
and I was interested in it. And I'm interested in property law, which is something that most lawyers don't like. I was sitting on our planning and zoning commission in town, which has to do with land development. And I just enjoy that conceptually. And
Mm.
estate planning is a corner of property law.
Yeah.
Um, and then I added in an elderly component.
Hmm.
So I was an elder law attorney, and actually was the attorney for most of the really old people in town.
Wonderful. Are you still practicing, or it sounds like you're no longer
No,
practicing?
I've retired recently.
Okay. All right. Well, that must have been an interesting chapter in your life,
It was
but
very
mostly nursing.
interesting.
And we do live longer, healthier lives nowadays where our working career I've had two careers. I was 20 years as a broadcaster, and now I'm 20 years pretty much as an actor. And I'm glad I made the switch. I enjoyed broadcasting when I was doing. I still kind of do. I still do some broadcasting, but I also act. But it's good to use other sides of your brain. It's good to use other
Exactly.
dimensions of yourself because, like I said, we're going to spend nowadays 40, maybe 50 years in a career. That's a long
Exactly.
time. Yeah. And so that's very, very intriguing. You mentioned you were intrigued by culture of the th Southwest. Do you travel much to the Southwest? Tell us a little bit about that.
My parents retired from New Jersey um, to the Arizona area, and I am Ukrainian,
Mhm.
and I always felt that my roots were from the Aleutian chain, and that they had wandered down to Arizona. Wouldn't you from Siberia? So
Right.
um, I just always felt an affinity with that culture.
Hmm.
And my husband and I took a trip. It was a health trip to
Mhm.
the Navajo Nation. It was very immersive.
Mhm.
And seeing what I knew as a nurse play out in the native culture
Hmm.
was really good.
Hmm.
It was um, very informative
Yeah.
and very helpful even now in working with people who are not of your culture
Mhm.
and relating to them.
Yeah. Have you ever traveled to Ukraine?
No, I was planning to, and then Chernobyl blew. I
Yeah.
was doing a an educational tour to Soviet Union,
Hmm.
and one of the side trips was Ukraine,
Yeah.
but that got canceled.
Yeah. And I would say it's canceled now too, with what's
Exactly. I
going in
would love
Ukraine.
to go to Ukraine.
Yeah, yeah. It's a shame what's happened in that region in the world, no doubt. I mean, obviously lost lives and wonderful people. And Russian people are wonderful too. I mean, it's never the people, it's always the leaders, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
What's your take on the Ukraine war? When do you think that'll get resolved? What do you
It
think
was
it is?
heartbreaking to see
Yeah.
because as I watched the video clips on the news, that was my grandma.
Yeah.
My grandmother, who was Ukrainian, and you just felt heartbroken at what
Yeah.
they were going through.
Yeah. It's terrible. And the cities are destroyed. I mean, I think it's going to take generations to rebuild that country.
Absolutely, and a
Yeah.
ton of money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And and it's still going on. I mean, it just,
exactly.
I
Exactly.
don't get it. It boggles the mind. You would think a resolution could have been struck. Uh, I don't understand. What's your favorite place to travel? What's your favorite destination that you've traveled to, either in the United States or around the world?
I love beaches. So
Hmm.
most of my beach time is spent in Nantucket.
Okay, Nantucket's a beautiful place. Yeah. So, Nantucket's your number one rated beach?
Actually, the best beach in the world that I've been to is in Anguilla.
Okay.
Gorgeous beaches,
Yeah.
absolutely gorgeous
Well,
beach.
that's almost like cheating because it's too perfect there. You know what I mean? In the US, our beaches are not quite as they're pretty, they're beautiful, and they're different. I mean, the beaches of Maine are quite different from the beaches of Nantucket versus Rhode Island, or even, I mean, Jones Beach is a beautiful beach.
Yes,
There's beautiful beaches all over. My favorite beach, and I'll let you in on a secret. You probably know it already because you're from Connecticut, but it's just north of you. And a certain pop star lives there by the name of Taylor Swift. And it's my favorite little undiscovered town. It was undiscovered until she moved there, I guess. But Watch Hill, Rhode Island, I think is
I've
spectacular.
heard that. I haven't been there.
Oh,
I've been
what's
to
your
Block Island, but
why? Oh, you're missing out. You got to take a drive. It's probably 60 miles from you and spectacular beaches that are kind of hard to find. They're off the beaten path a little bit, and it's a peninsula with a firehouse. So you've got ocean and bay on both sides, and it is absolutely wonderful. Beautiful grand hotel where you can get some lunch there called the Ocean House. Okay, so that's my next life. I'm going to be the next Anthony Bourdain, but I'm just going to travel New England and give my highlights. But I'm telling you, Watch Hill, make the drive from your home. You won't regret it. But before we leave you today, anything else you want the folks at home to know about Benjamin Symington Theodore Bear?
Um, it should be a lesson to you to let your child play.
Yeah.
Don't structure their lives so much that there isn't an opportunity for the child to use their imagination and move in their own direction, because marvelous things can happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The wonder of play. Parents, let your children play. Keep a watchful eye on them, yes, but give them a little free rein. The games they come out with are so much more creative than anything they'll find by clicking on this. Keep that away from them. That's my advice because
Yes,
I do think it's stifling. You lean on it. After a while, you don't even learn how to spell because the spell check does it for you. So
exactly.
I think it's a great idea to keep digital devices out of kids' hands as long as possible. Here's a great analog device. It's called a book. And this is a wonderful book you can get for your children. It's called Benjamin Symington Theodore Bear. In it, Andrea takes us on a whimsical journey through imaginary lands, fierce dragon battles, and heartwarming moments of friendship. If your child loves classics like Winnie the Pooh and Corduroy, this beautifully illustrated storybook is destined to become his or her favorite. Andrea, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
And thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.